All right, we'll get this meeting started. All right, everyone, today is Wednesday, March 19th, 2025, for the Board of Assessors meeting. We are starting just a smidge late at 5:31. This meeting is being recorded, so if anyone wants to watch it at another date, they can. So let's just get right into this, because we do have a few things here. We have no appointments for tonight, still correct?
Correct.
All right, you have a seminar that you guys wanted to go to.
Yes, so we got an email from the Plymouth County Assessors Association, and they're doing a seminar on chapter land that I think would be beneficial to myself and to both secretaries. So I was asking for the board's permission for all three of us to attend. It's going to be on April 17th in Pembroke.
Okay, what time was it? Like all day, half day? I don't remember.
It says 9:30 to 12 is the approximate times.
So it would just be like a half a day and then just coming back when you're done.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds like, because of the paperwork that you gave me, it sounds like it could be very informal, very beneficial. Kind of bumming that I can't go. I probably could, but I have other things going on that day, so unfortunately. But are they going to record it, do you know, by chance?
They didn't say that, and they didn't give an online option for this one, but they aren't charging for it, which is really unusual and extra special. So.
Yes, if it's for free, it's for us.
Even better.
Yes, free are always very good. Yeah, I don't see any reason why the three of you can't go. We can figure out accommodations for the office. Worst case scenario, I can sit in the office for a few hours, just answer the phone, take messages or something like that. It shouldn't be a major deal.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's no problem.
I can maybe help you sit in the office and take messages.
Thank you.
All right. Actually, what day is town election?
12th.
This is after the 12th. This is the 17th.
I can be a volunteer.
That's the team spirit. All right, and if you happen to think of it, just say if they're recording it.
I will.
Because I just think it would be interesting with the chapter land and how all that stuff pops up, and if there's been more changes. Be interesting.
I will let you know.
All right, we do have a number of things to sign. They all look pretty standard. So we'll take care of those. We do have the minutes to review, accept, and approve the open minute sessions for February 19th, 2025. Does anyone have any questions, comments, or anything with them?
No.
Nope.
All right, is then there a motion to accept and approve the open session minutes of February 19th?
Yeah, make a motion to accept and approve the minutes for February 19th.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, ayes have that. All right, we're just gonna skip the old business for the moment. We'll come back to that. New business. The annual town letter. We do have to approve it. Did you send it a copy to Cheryl and Deb?
Yes.
Did you guys get a chance to read it?
Yep, excellent.
Any
Yeah.
questions about it, comments, thoughts?
Oh, sounds good.
Okay. Cheryl?
All set, did a good job.
All right, so then is there a motion to approve the annual town letter?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Tip seconds, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right. We have no public, so we will then circle back to the old business for the HEROES Act, which is Chapter 178 of the Acts 2024, to have another discussion and see what recommendations we may come up with for this. So Danielle, I believe you have a little presentation for us, so we can go over it a little bit
Yes.
more.
Okay, so I sent everyone this statutory exemption. This is kind of a review general exemptions that we offer. So we have a 17D, which is for elderly age 70 and older or surviving spouses of any age. It looks at your assets, and our assets are increased each year by the cost of living adjustment. So that is our first one. The next one is the 41C, and that's low income elderly. So that one's also 70 and older. It looks at your assets and also looks at your income, both of which are increased annually by ACOLA, and if you meet those standards, you can qualify for the 41C. Then there's the 37A, which is legally blind certification. So you just need a letter stating that you're legally blind, and you can qualify for the 37A. Then the other exemptions we offer are all veteran related, so they're all for disabled veterans. The 22 is for disabled veterans anywhere from 10% up to 100, and we currently had 43 qualified applicants last year. Then we also have a 22A, which is a disabled veteran with loss of a foot, a hand, or an eye, and we had 1 qualified applicant last year. 22B is for a veteran with loss of both limbs or both eyes, and we did not have any qualified applicants on that one. The 22C is veterans with specially adapted housing, and we did not have any qualified applicants last year. The 22D is for a surviving spouse of a veteran if the death of the veteran is service-connected. That exemption nothing would change with this no matter what we do, because they get a full exemption on their taxes, and that is reimbursed from the state. So we had 5 qualifying applicants for that one. And then we have the 22E, which is veterans that are 100% disabled, and we had 19 applicants for that last year. And then the 22F is a veteran who is a paraplegic due to service or 100% blind due to service, and we did not have any applicants on that one. Okay, so those are the exemptions that we offer. The next slide talks about the HERO Act. So I believe it was in August of 2024, the governor signed this HERO Act, and basically in relation to our office, what it changed is how a disabled veteran is qualified for the motor vehicle abatement now. If you're 100% disabled, you qualify for the exemption on your motor vehicle now. And it also gave 2 optional statutory exemptions, the 22I and the 22J. So the 22I is the one where we would increase our exemption amount based on the cost of living that's given by the state. And the 22J is the one that would, we can match the exemption through the town. So we can match it up to 100% of what the exemption amount currently is. We have talked about this at a prior meeting, but on the next slide is kind of the new information that I found out. So annually at town meeting since 2002, which became effective in fiscal 2003, the town has voted to increase all exemptions by 25%, and we do that under Chapter 73, Section 4 of the Acts of 1986. What I didn't know is that later, those special acts became Mass General Law, Chapter 59, Section 5C.5. And in order to enact the optional HERO Act Exemption 22J, the one where we could match the exemption up to 100%, we cannot have a 5C.5. So that just kind of changes things a little bit for the town. Using the 5C.5, you have to have a uniform amount for all exemptions. We can't just pick and choose which exemptions we want to add to. It have to be across the board. So we've been using that for a long time, since 2003, to apply the 25% to all of our exemptions. So on the next slide, it's our options. So right now, that's what the Board of Assessors needs to talk about, is what we can do. So we can keep the 25% exemption on all, as we have been doing by voting on it at town meeting. The other option is you can change the exemption up to 100%. So if you say you want to do 50% instead of 25%, or you want to do 100% instead of 25%, that is an option that could go to town meeting and get voted on there. Then the other option is to revoke it altogether, to get rid of that 25% that we've been offering. And in its place, we could enact different optional legislation, but it would be for certain exemptions. So if we revoke it, the 37A clause that we talked about for the blind, there's no other way for me to increase the amount that they would be getting. So they're used to getting the $625, and it would get reduced back down to $500. For the 17D, which was the surviving spouses and are elderly but does not look at income, just elderly that meet our asset limit, we can increase it with a cost of living adjustment, similar to the 22I that we talked about for the veterans, but we would not be able to match what they were currently getting, giving them the 25% extra. The 41C is our low-income elderly, and there are different options for them where we could increase their amount up to 100%. This just gets a little trickier because now you're kind of picking and choosing instead of making it kind of fair across the board.
Right.
So the next slide is, I spoke to a lot of other towns. This is a very busy slide, but I just wanted to kind of give you a rundown of what other towns are doing if you wanted to see how much they offer. The consensus is everyone does it different. There is not one standard way to do exemptions. They are very complicated, and all the towns offer different things. So some of them do give 100% exemption on all, some of them give the standard basic amount that the law tells them that they have to do. We are pretty generous with our increase in the income and assets that we analyze, and we have increased those over the years. So I think we have maybe a few more people that qualify that in other towns they wouldn't qualify for, because we've been doing that. But that's all the information on local towns.
And that is a lot of information.
It is a lot.
No, but it's very good to see, because you can see everybody seems to be kind of struggling with what works best
Yes.
for their situation, their residents, and how it affects everybody overall.
And what they can afford, because then the next slide is cost analysis. So the first part of it here shows in 2024 what we had. So I'm showing you the different clauses and then how many we had last year. So then it's the exemption amount, and then it's the total. So that exemption amount times the amount of qualified applicants we had, and then how much the state reimburses us. So then the difference. So in that final column, the taxpayers are paying about $24,244 towards all of our exemptions, and we gave out $57,156 in exemptions. So that is the first slide, and then it kind of continues on to the next page, where I went through those same exemptions with the keeping the count the same, which it does vary year to year, but just because I know those numbers are right from last year, let's assume that we have a similar count going forward. So if we got rid of the 25%, the exemptions would have to go back to their standard amount. So you'll see that in the first column here where it says year one, all the amounts are less because it's back to what the state mandates as the exemption amount. And then what I did is I assumed the 22I cost of living adjustment for the veterans could potentially go through. And that last cost of living adjustment was 3.4%, and that does change year to year, but I used last year's number. So those numbers increased in that column. And then I went into the next column and I did the hypothetical 25% that's generally approved at town meeting, and that would be the new exemption amounts. So the column after that is what the taxpayers would fund, and basically it's almost the same amount as what they were already paying, because the only difference is the cost of living increase. So that's only a difference of $1,570 down at the bottom there, and that's to make up for the cost of living increase. And then I just carried it out, so it's the same information, but at 50%, at 75%, and at 100%. And you can see if we matched the exemption at 100%, that number does get significantly higher. So instead of the $24,000 that the taxpayers are funding, it's $61,051, which is a difference of $36,806. And I think that is the end of it.
All right. Any questions, Cheryl?
I'm gonna recuse myself from it anyways. I'm not gonna.
No, that's fine. I just gave you any questions.
Oh,
Deb, any questions?
No,
All right. I know we talked about this last time, a couple meetings ago, and so with the cost of living increase, can we just do the cost of living increase if we stay at the 25% where we are now?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. As much as I would like to give veterans and disabled and people in need much more money, I mean, we have to think financially, how much more of a burden can we put on the taxpayers, because somebody has to pay for this. And like you showed in the slide, it goes up significantly, and it's only going to increase every year. If anything, I really think for this coming year, we stay at the 25%. But if we did just the 3% for a cost of living, does that still affect our stuff right now with the, what exemptions, did I give the right number? With,
So the cost of living would only apply to the veteran exemptions. So it's our 22s, our 22A, and our 22E. They would get the cost of living applied to their amount.
okay,
And that would continually add upon itself. So whatever the amount is now, next year, whatever the cost of living comes out to, I would then keep adjusting it and keep adding to that.
and that was just for the 22 E's and J's, you said?
The regular 22, the 22A, and the 22E. It would apply to the others, but we don't have any applicants in the other veteran
Okay, so the,
exemptions.
all right, so those two categories seem to be, have the most combined.
Mhm.
Okay, so, but can they get the 3%, because I think the COLA is what, 3% right now, give or take? But would they still be able just to get the 3% even if we stick with the same, Chapter 73, Section 4 Act for the Mass General Law 59, 5
Yes,
C and a
we
half?
can do the 22I and keep doing our town meeting 25%. We just can't do the town meeting 25% and the 22J where we would increase just the exemptions for the veterans by a percentage.
So if we did just the COLA increase and nothing else right now, nobody loses anything.
Correct.
Because I can't justify taking money away from others that have been getting it right now. I think we have to look at it more. You know, and maybe this will change because other towns are probably running into the same thing, I'm assuming, because by the look on the little, a lot of information page you gave us, towns, they're still visiting it, they're still discussing it, because there's a lot of, not yet, just discussing, have the 5.5 not discussed. I really think right now, yeah, I really think we should just do the COLA right now and revisit it again. That is my suggestion.
COLA and keep the 25% like we've been doing.
And keep the 25%, so that way nobody loses anything. We're still doing something as opposed to nothing. You know, like I said, I think we just really gotta think about expenses and how this is gonna affect other people as well. Thoughts, comments, suggestions?
Well, I think, like the 25%, as long as the other people that qualify to get it, they still get it and stuff, and, you know, just, maybe just increase it for this 1 year, and then maybe next year, look again and see what you can do, if you can do more than just the COLA stuff for next year.
Well, I don't think we can't,
You know, like what you said, you just, you know, because you're not gonna look at it again until next year, because you're not gonna change it in the middle of the year.
well, no, because it would still have to go to town meeting to vote
Right.
on. But I think, when I say look at it next year, we can look at it as the year progresses, kind of figure out, discuss with the selectmen, you know, where everything looks like it's gonna be. So next year,
To see if we could increase it for people.
and I'm assuming that when they wrote this, they didn't realize that they would potentially be taking away funding for other groups.
Right, I don't think that's their intention. It's just, yeah. it could happen in a case like ours where we're doing the 5C&1/2, yeah.
Yeah, see, so maybe once they get all the kinks out of it, it'll probably be revised at some point. Because I think this is something we should talk to our state rep about, that this is how it's affecting us, that if we do it, we're taking money away, and they probably don't even realize that that's how it affects some other groups. So,
Don't all the other exemptions remain the same?
At the base amount,
Right.
not at the 25% increase if we get rid of that option. To do just the 22J, which would just increase veterans.
yeah, so I'm sure that they don't realize that that would affect other groups. So I would think after somebody has conversation with them,
I think they realize when they wrote the law what it entails.
Yeah, I think it's just,
They know what it is.
different towns do the standard amount across the board for all, and other towns do pick and choose and increase some and not others. So I don't think they mean to take anything away, they're just giving you the option to pick and choose and increase some.
right, no, I'm sure there was no malice intended. That's not what I'm saying. I just think, you know, if we do that, we're taking away from some, and I can't get on board with that. So, but that's my 2 cents. I'm sorry, Deb, you
So
were-
is everybody gonna still get the 25%? If, that you already was saying on the things, or some
well,
will get less than 25%?
We would recommend that to the Board of Selectmen, and they would have to present it at town meeting again like we normally do, yes.
So is that what we're gonna do, is recommend the 25%?
that's my suggestion.
Okay.
But it's open for a discussion, if, you know, you have another avenue you wanna discuss, it's open. The floor is yours.
I think the 25% and then the COLA for the veterans is good. And then maybe next year can, instead of being 25, it could be maybe 30 or something. You know, if you plan ahead for it. So,
No, I completely understand, and I don't disagree. So, if we just decide to stay as is, and we can just do the 3%, correct? For the veterans, it would be 3% cost of living increase, or whatever the number is.
So that was last year's number, yeah, I don't know what this upcoming number will be, but whatever the state brings out would be applied to the veteran exemptions, yes.
So, all right. So, which is what we do anyway. All right. Well, then, is that what you're saying as well?
how many people are there that apply to get the tax write-off thing? How many people altogether?
For which clause?
8 for all the people altogether.
Oh, I didn't get a total, I have 43 22s, I have 1 22A, I have 19 22Es, I have 13 17Ds, 12 41Cs, and 1 37A.
So roughly 100.
But it does fluctuate. Some people move in, people move out. Some people are newly qualified. Some people just hear about it for the first time. So our numbers do change, but they're going to be in that range.
So if we increased everybody 3% for like the COLA thing, how much is that if we had 100?
We can't. So the HERO Act is just
Oh.
for the veterans. It's
Oh,
just to
okay.
increase the veterans.
Okay.
So we do increase the 17D and the 41C have the income and/or asset qualifications. We have already, at one of our town meetings, made that an option. So we do increase the levels that we look at for the income and assets by the cost of living. So we
Okay.
do use it for that reason. Doesn't change the exemption amount they get, it just, I mean, it makes sense, like, Social Security goes up 3%, then we should allow 3% more in income, otherwise these people would get bumped out of the program, so we do that here in West Bridgewater.
Okay. Yeah, I think we should do the 25 and then the COLA.
Okay.
All right, and Cheryl is recusing herself from the vote, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so I will vote out of necessity. Is there a motion then for the 25, to continue the 25% and then with the 3%, the cost of living increase for the HEROES Act?
I make a motion to continue the 25 and the cost of living for the HEROES Act.
All right, out of necessity, I will second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And so it's 2 ayes and 1 abstain. Please. All right, do we have anything else for open session this evening?
I do not.
Anything, Cheryl?
I'm all set.
All right. All right, and Mary's looking busy over there, so I'm gonna assume she's got nothing. By that smirk on her face. All right, with that being said, it is now 5:57. We are going to end the open session portion of our meeting. 5:57 to go into executive session. We will not be coming back into open session at the conclose of executive. Is there a motion then to go into executive session, not to return to open?
I'll make a motion not to return to open session.
Second?
Second.
Okay, Cheryl?
Second. All in favor, yeah, aye.
Deb, yes, okay. All right, with that being said, the time is officially 5:58 and we're going into executive session, not to reconvene into open session.